If someone missed the video in 3 parts, then a hint has been made for you in the upper right corner. The UE School's swimming pool hosts a training session where students compete in speed with quirks. However, aizawa appears and announces the end of their competition as pool time has come to an end, as well as the start of summer classes due to the end of the first semester. Now 2 classes 1 and 1-bit are going to summer camp to train their quirks and improve their stamina. The students are taken to the gathering place in front of the camp, where they meet a team of professional wildcat heroes and a powerful male cat. Hero Mandalay shows the camp to which the students must reach. Then Pixabob throws everyone off the cliff into the forest of magical animals, and now the goal of all students is to get to the camp through the forest, which is filled with magical creatures. In this regard, Shoji and Jiro began to hunt down the beasts, and everyone else began to destroy these monsters. As a result, the beaten and tired students successfully reached their destination. They were told the conditions of their stay in the camp, and they were also introduced to Mandala's nephew named Koda, who hates heroes since his parents of heroes were destroyed in the line of duty. Deku decided to get to know him, however. Kodo used a very powerful punching technique. In the meantime, all students were placed in the camp. Training starts the next day, so all the students went to recover in a hot spring. There Koda fell off the wall as he saw irresistible women. Deku caught him and took him to the medical center. Mandalay told about the dead parents of Koda, and he is also in the camp, since he has nowhere else to go. The next day, Aizawa gathered everyone and said that today's goal is to increase the strength of each student's quirk. To show the change in power level over the past 3 months, he invited Bakugo and asked him to throw the ball again. The previous record was 705 meters, and now he threw 709 meters. With this, Aizawa showed that Bakugo's quirk power level had not changed much in 3 months, and therefore it is now very important to strengthen quirks and increase stamina. In parallel with this, the League of Villains lay low. However, this is just the calm before the storm, as Shigaraki has gathered strong villains and created a strike force, and now the villains are preparing to implement their audacious plan. Meanwhile, the students begin their long training sessions where each develops their own quirk. Class 1-bit began the same training under the leadership of Vlad and under the supervision of Wildcats. Ragdoll, with the help of his quirk, can observe hundreds of people at once and find their weaknesses. Pixabob can control the earth. Mandalay has telepathy. She can transmit messages from a distance and read people's minds. Tiger is responsible for attacks and destruction, so he took up Deku training. After training, the students cooked their own food. Deku noticed Koda leaving and decided to give him some food. However, Koda refused Deku's help. Meanwhile, the strike force is plotting to attack the camp, but for now they are waiting for the main body to arrive. Students at this time train hard, and in the evening they pass courage tests, and those who did not pass the UE school exam, Aizawa takes with him to class. The essence of the test is that one class scares the other, so everyone is divided into groups of 2 heroes using a random house. However, Deku is left without a mate. Class B will be the first to scare, and Class A will act as victims. At the same time, Aizawa led the students to the classroom where Manamu and teacher Vlad were waiting for them. They all receive a telepathic message from Mandalay that they have been attacked. Aizawa immediately goes to help them. However, on the street, he is attacked by Dabi and attacks point blank with fire. But Aizawa dodges, disables Dobi's quirk, and slams him face first into the ground. However, Dabi dissolves as it turns out it was a copy made by Twice. Aizawa meets some of the students coming out of the forest. He sends students to Vlad's class, and he goes to the forest. Meanwhile, part of the forest was filled with poisonous gas. In different places, the villains simultaneously attacked a group of students and heroes. Spinner and Magna attacked Pixie Bob, Mandalay, and Tigger. Magni immediately knocked out Pixie Bob, and the villains also reported that they were from the strike squad of the League of Villains, and that they now adopted Stein's ideology, which says that every hero should earn the right to be called a hero, and weak heroes should be destroyed. Mandalay and Tiger start fighting against Spinner and Magna. Meanwhile, Deku went to rescue Koda, who was overtaken by Muscle. He nearly destroys the boy, but is saved at the last moment by Deku. When Muscle found out that Deku was in front of him, this is the one whom Shigaraki instructed to destroy in the first place. Muscle immediately attacks and knocks Deku back into the rock. However, Muscle let it slip and said that the target of the strike force was Bakugo. It turned out that Muscle destroyed Kouda's parents, for which Deku decides to attack him with a powerful attack. However, the villain withstands the blow. Then Muscle attacks again, but Deku manages to dodge. Deku has no choice, so he decides to fight Muscle and not back down. As a result, the Muscle pins Deku to the ground, but the villain is distracted by the cat. Seizing the moment, Deku uses his 1,000,000% strength and uses his technique to hit Muscle, slamming him up the mountain and defeating him. Deku takes the boy and heads towards the camp, as he urgently needs to inform the teachers and the cat squad that Bakugo is the target of the villains. On the way, Deku meets Aizawa, who reminds him of his lack of a heroic apprentice license. But since all available forces are now needed, he asked for a message from Mandalay, in which Aizawa issued all students permission to fight. Deku gets to Mandalay and relays Aizawa's message to her, and also tells her that Kouda is safe. Mandalay, using her quirk, informed everyone about Aizawa's order, and also asked Deku to pass on the information that the target of the capture of the villains was Bakugo. Deku went looking for Bakugo. However, Magni decided to destroy him, but Spinner stopped him, since, according to Stain's ideology, the villain recognized Deku as a worthy hero. Meanwhile, Bakugo and Todoroki encountered Toothy, who immediately attacked them. They started to fight the villain, but they fell into a trap as Bakugo's quirk can create a fire, and they can't escape because of the gas behind them. At the same time, Deku encounters Shoji and Tokoyami, whose shadow went out of control during the battle with the villain. It turned out that they were also attacked by Toothy and hurt Shoji's arm by a replicant. Seeing this, Tokoyami lost control of his quirk, and now Tokoyami asks the guys to leave and leave a shadow on him. However, after seeing Bakugo's explosions in the distance, Deku came up with a plan where they would run towards Bakugo and draw a shadow behind them. There he will create a glow, and the shadow will calm down. In the end, they successfully implemented the plan. However, Bakugo decided to wait until the shadow destroyed Toothy. After that, they, along with Todoroki, calmed the shadow. Deku reminded everyone that Bakugo was the villain's target, so he offered to take Bakugo to the camp. They set off, building a kind of shield in front of Bakugo. Meanwhile, Yaoyorozu created masks for all the students, and Tetsu decided to go help the teachers. But Kendo stopped him and suggested that he find the one who creates the gas. The villain was very close, so they easily found him. A villain named Mustard attacked Tetsu and broke his mask, causing him to lose his powers as he couldn't breathe. However, Kendo enlarged her arms and created whirlwinds of air that dispersed the gas. Then Tetsu attacked the villain with his last strength and knocked him out. Meanwhile, Uraraka and Asui fight against Togu. Toga attacks Uraraka, but Asui defends her, causing her tongue to break. Then Toga chains Asui by the hair to a tree. Uraraka attacks the villain and slams her face into the ground. Tobu says that they both smell the same since they are both in love with someone. She suddenly sticks her syringe into Uraraka's leg and draws blood from her. However, Deku and the rest of the guys show up and Togu decides to retreat. It turns out that the villainess is also in love with Deku. Deku suggests they all go to camp together and escort Bakugo. However, it turned out that Bakugo and Tokoyami had disappeared, captured by Mr. Compress, who informed the strike team that they had secured the target, and the villains began to retreat. The guys went in pursuit of the Compress. Dabi and Twice also went to the rally point, and they also summoned Noma with them, thereby accidentally saving Yaoyorozu and a vase from trouble. In order not to miss Nomu, Yaoyorozu creates a tracking chip, and Awaze attaches it with his quirk to Nomu. Another clone of Debbie bursts into the class to the students, but Vlad slams him into the wall. The clone says that the entire hero system stands on only two pillars, the hero AII Might and the pinnacle of Yui training. However, just a few incidents can destroy this system, and this crack will spread throughout the heroic world. Aizawa suddenly appeared and destroyed the clone. He leaves Kouda, and he goes to help the others. At the training field, Tiger and Mandalay nearly defeated Magna and Spinner, but Kurogiri appeared and freed them. Meanwhile, the guys keep chasing Compress. Deku came up with a plan where Uraraka makes everyone weightless and Asui launches them straight towards the villain. They end up slamming Compress into the ground right at the Strike Force's rally point. Several villains have already arrived there, who immediately begin to attack the heroes. Dabi scatters everyone with her fire, and Toga attacks her new love Deku, whom she wanted to destroy. However, Shoji stopped her. Todoroki took over twice, while Shoji was able to take possession of the orbs with Bakugo and Tokoyami. It turned out that they were not real balls. Kurojiri appeared, and the villains began to enter his portal. At the last moment, Aoyama shoots a laser at Compress's mask from the bushes, and he drops the balls. Shoji manages to grab one of the balls, and the second ball grabs Dabi. As a result, Tokoyami was saved, and Bakugo was taken away by the villains. The police and firefighters arrived at the scene, who reported that 3 villains had been captured: Muscle, Mustard Gas, and now a toothless villain. After the incident, Deku was taken to the hospital. The next day, hundreds of journalists arrived at the UE school, while the school was holding a meeting of teachers, where there was a debriefing. The teachers decided to direct all their efforts to protect the students. All Might received a call from Shukachi, saying that they had interrogated Azaba and Vlad, and possibly found Bakugo's location. When Lieutenant Sansa was gathering information, he found out that a scared man was in one of the buildings. They immediately contacted the owner of the house, and it turned out that there is a bar there. Shukachi then asks All Might to join them. The Almighty agrees. Meanwhile, Deku is recovering in the hospital. His classmates came to support him. There, Kirishima offered to go and save Bakugo, as on the way to Deku's chamber, they, along with Todoroki, accidentally heard the words of Yaoyorozu, who, with the help of Avas, attached a tracking chip to Nomu, and thereby tracks his location. They asked Yaoyorozu to make another instrument especially for them, but Ida remembered that he had promised not to get involved in things without permission, so he suggested to just trust All Might and not make any rash moves. This decision was supported by the majority of students. Deku was sent for an examination, where his grandmother cured his hands. However, due to the large number of injuries, the hands did not fully recover. Then the doctor said that if Deku continued to receive such injuries, then his hands would become paralyzed. The doctor also delivered a letter from Kauta, in which he thanked Deku for saving him. Deku received a call from his mother, who asked him to think about leaving U School. However, Deku owes everything to All Might, and since he made him a hero, he cannot let him down. When Deku leaves the hospital with Yaoyorozu, the guys start saving Bakugo. They drive to the Kamina area in Yokohama City. Meanwhile, Shukachi enlisted several heroes in the operation. They started discussing the plan to take over the headquarters of the League of Villains. At this time, the news reported that one of the students of the school had been kidnapped. Shigaraki is very pleased with everything that is happening, and he also suggested that Bakugo join the League of Villains. But Bakugo, even at the cost of his life, would never become a villain, so he refused. Meanwhile, the guys arrived at the place and put on disguises. Walking down the street, they saw a press conference at UE School, where the headmaster and some teachers apologized to all the affected students. Then the journalists bombarded them with tricky questions, and ordinary residents began to condemn the actions of the school and teachers. Shigaraki, having seen this press conference, was glad that society is not happy with the heroes, as they do not cope with their duties, and people do not want to forgive the mistakes made by the heroes. The villains call the heroes two-faced people who live for money and fame, and people for what, but they always criticize instead of support. Then Shigaraki began to put pressure on Bakuji's passion for victories, and then completely asks to release him. However, Bakugo takes off and attacks Shigaraki. Bakugo said his goal is to become a famous hero like All Might. Meanwhile, Shukachi and the heroes had already discussed the plan. It turned out that the director and teachers used the press conference to divert the attention of the villains, so the attack of the heroes will be as unexpected as possible. All Might and several other heroes break into Shigaraki's bar and attack the villains. Shigaraki is shocked by what is happening, and therefore asks Kurojiri to move all the Nomu to the bar. However, the impaler covers Kurojiri's mouth. Meanwhile, the guys got to the hangar, where they found a lot of Nomu. However, another part of the heroes broke into the hangar and captured all the Nomu. At the Gran Torino bar, he asks where their all-for-one boss is. Suddenly, many portals appear from which the Nomu begins to emerge. Bakugo and the villains are sucked into these portals, and the heroes have once again missed the League of Villains. It turned out that after the heroes took over the barn, the all-for-one boss appeared, which easily attacked the heroes. Prospector and All Might begin to fight Nomu. The Almighty decides to go to the hangar to help the heroes. Meanwhile, All for One destroys Best Jeans, as his quirk doesn't suit him due to the difficulty in controlling it. And Deku and the guys are shocked with fear and can't even move. Shigaraki and other villains emerge from the teleporters along with Bakugo. All for One tells him not to be upset about the defeat, because for this he saved all his villains, as well as Bakugo. At that moment, All Might appears and attacks the boss. But All for One uses 4 quirk at the same time and counterattacks All Might. The boss takes control of Kurogiri and opens a portal for the villains to enter the portal and also take Bakugo with them. All Might attacks the boss again and at the same time tries to save Bakugo, but the boss doesn't let him do it. Deku tries to figure out how to save Bakugo. He figured out how to do it, but without engaging in battle. Deku and Ida then push off the wall so they can fly up thanks to the ice springboard. They successfully take off, and Bakugo flies up to the guys and grabs Kirishima's hand, thus saving Bakugo. Meanwhile, the boss takes over Magn's body and drags all the villains into the portal. All Might gathers his spirit and slams the boss into the ground. After that, All Might partially loses his heroic form. All Might has flashbacks from his youth where he tells his teacher Nana Shimura that he wants to become a symbol of peace. All for One starts insulting All Might's teacher. Then All Might hits the boss with all his might, but flies off in response to the boss's blow for a couple of 100 meters, where Gran Torino picks him up in flight. It turns out their fight is broadcast around the world. All for One attacks All Might and he loses his hero form. Now the whole world sees the true form of the Almighty. The boss reveals that Shigaraki is the grandson of Nana Shimura. Then the helper concentrates his power in his right hand, saying that he will not lose. Other heroes also appear and take the wounded. All for One attacks All Might and destroys everything around. After the boss collects a whole combination of quirks and is going to destroy the All Might, they exchange powerful attacks. The hero remembered Gran Torino's instructions, so he concentrated his power on his left hand. But it was a trap, and after that he again concentrated power in his right hand and attacked the boss with a powerful blow. All Might raised his hand and turned back into his hero form. In the end, All for One was placed in an iron cell and sent to prison, and All Might pointed a finger at the camera of journalists and said that he was next. But this gesture was for Deku, since the peace symbol resigned. After everything that happened, the guys took Bakugo to the police and All Might to the hospital. All Might decides to visit Shukachi and Gran Torino, who are discussing the roots of the Shigaraki family. Then All Might decides to go in search of Shigaraki, but he is stopped by Gran Torino, saying that he and Shukachi will deal with it, and All Might should go to the Yui school. Meanwhile, Todoroki has returned home and finds his angry father, who is now the #1 hero. However, he is unhappy that he took this place in this way. Deku received a message from All Might, and they met on the beach. At the meeting, All Might hit Deku in the face because he disobeyed and therefore could go to another world. All Might revealed that his heroic time was up, and he can no longer maintain his heroic form, and he praised the deck for being able to save Bakugo without loss or injury. Since All Might has time, he will train the successor. Meanwhile, the principal decided it was time to launch his plan to protect the students. To do this, teachers need to talk with the parents of the students so that they give permission for the enhanced training of the heroes. In the end, all the students left their homes and went to Yui School's dormitory. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, like and press the bell so as not to miss new videos. AniMap was with you. Bye everyone.